Well, Mike Griffith here, along with Chip Towers. We're with Dog Nation, and today was the start of spring football, Chip, and Kirby Smart had his press conference, and we had an opportunity to talk to Jake Fromm and Andrew Thomas, along with Michael Barnett. And what did you take from all that? J.R. Reed as well.
Well, I mean, there's certainly, if you were to count how many times people said the word excitement, I'm left to believe that they're pretty excited about spring practice. And, it is on a lot of levels exciting. There's a lot of newness about this camp. I mean, there's 14 early enrollees. There's 4 new coaches when you take into account new roles for coaches that are coming back, new coordinators. I was drilling down on that a lot, just trying to find out, hey, what do you think what's this going to look like? What's it sound like? What's it feel like playing for those new guys? And generally everybody's excited about it. Excitement's what you heard a lot, energy a lot. Fire, especially when the conversation turned to Dan Lanning and James Coley, who are taking over coordinators, Glenn Schumann as well. A very young staff, very energetic staff, and they've got a lot to get in a short amount of time in this 15 practice session.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It sounds to me like there's going to be more changes on offense than defense.
Yeah.
Thomas telling us that there's some new plays in the playbook. Kirby redefining balance, telling us that balance doesn't necessarily mean a 50-50 mix of run and pass, although if you look, Georgia has been one of the most predominant run-heavy teams in the country. May get away from that a little bit, but as Kirby made sure to say today, that doesn't mean they can't run the ball. They just have the ability to run and pass effectively well, and that's what constitutes balance. Defensively, Chip, we asked him about the hire of Dan Lanning. Why didn't he say more about it? And his comment was he knows what Dan can do behind the scenes. How would you interpret what he was saying there?
Yeah, he never really answered the question I want to get to is was this a national coast-to-coast search, or did you know these were your guys all the time? And, I think it's obvious that he talked to some people, but I think it's also pretty obvious that he felt like that he could trust these guys. Now, this is a bit of the roll of the dice, I think, with Kirby Smart. I mean, but between Kirby Smart's connections and, just where Georgia is a football program, you could have gone out and brought in a lot of different guys to do those jobs.
Sure.
Fact of the matter, he has a lot of self-belief, Kirby in himself, Kirby in the process, in the system, and then in these two guys in particular. He talked a lot about how much people don't know about what they were doing behind the scenes. He knows what they've been doing behind the scenes, and he very much has a lot of trust in them. So the good thing about it is the players do as well. I mean, there's a little bit of a different energy, a vibe because of those young guys. It's one of the younger staffs in the SEC, and I think the players generally like that. Youth is good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, some of the guys that will be out, Zamir White, no surprise, you're going to hold a guy like that out. Good news, though, James Cook is back 100%, so he's going to be back competing at running back. Zamir, Kirby says you don't want to push that, you don't want to rush it. We'll find out what he's doing in the fall, if he's back on special teams, how many carries he's going to get. Kirby said that's one you wait and see and give it plenty of time. I thought it was interesting, Julian Rochester, another guy, off-season surgery. You're missing a big D lineman there. Mikal Carter as well. David Marshall still not completely cleared. So the defensive line still a little beat up, Chip, and then the injury to Zamir White. Those were the things I don't know if they necessarily caught me off guard. I suppose I thought Georgia might be a little bit healthier.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I think the biggest news out of the day was, the D-line health. I mean, I don't know, did you know about the Julian Rochester thing? I had no idea about. Usually in the offseason you hear a little bit about this, that, and the other thing. I was surprised that James Cook is back to the degree he is, because I'd heard what did he call it, the Liz Frank surgery or something like that on his foot. Same thing as Tua had, and was able to come back, famously quick in the playoffs. Having him back, I think, is a big deal. Now, I, for one, have been kind of not on the Zamir train, when it comes to it's like, hey, everybody, I know this guy's a great player, and I know we all want to get a look at it, but it's not realistic to expect a lot of him. So I felt validated a little bit, and then he said, look, he's not going to do anything in the spring. I mean, did you see him out there today? I didn't catch him, so I assume he was still inside doing rehab or running around. Now, he'll be a factor in the fall, and we'll see. But in the meantime, I don't think he'll be a factor for a while, but James Cook being back, is not something I expected in this camp, and I think that's definitely helpful to Georgia's cause.
Yeah, I think that was the good news out of today. You know they're going to throw the ball a little bit more to the running backs. It's just the way they're built. Kirby said they're still going to run it, but they're going to play to the strengths. And certainly James Cook, a guy like DeAndre Swift that can do a lot out of the backfield. Now tomorrow, Chip, moving forward, it's pro day, and literally millions of dollars going to be on the line tomorrow. Now I know I've already talked with the agent. DeAndre Walker not going to be ready to test out. It's unfortunate. As you know, he had the surgery January 23rd for the hernia suffered in the Alabama SEC championship game.
Yeah.
Who are some guys you're going to be looking for tomorrow to run better times than they did at the Combine?
Well, I mean, really, they were out there watching practice. You know, Lamont Galliard was there, and obviously he's a guy that he's not going to blow up any Combine type of situation. I mean, but between his head and his heart, he's a great player, so it's going to be interesting to see how he tests out. And then Terry Godwin and Riley Ridley are here, and I'm sure both of those guys want to make a better impression than they were able to do in Indianapolis. Georgia has a lot. I love Kirby's take on it today.
How about that?
Yeah, he was like, hey, we want these guys to get drafted as high as possible. We hope they have a great showing. Based on his comments, they weren't disappointed at all. Those guys left. Now I know the reality is you might have advised and might have thought some of those guys might have come back. It was interesting talking to J.R. Reed today. He said that that was a really, really tough decision for him to come back. Sounded like he was really close to doing the same thing. Could you imagine, taking J.R. Reed's name off this roster along with those other guys? So, I think Terry Godwin is still a guy that I think is real interesting. That at the end of the day, he may end up playing, making a roster and playing for a long time, because I think that's the kind of guy he is. He just catches the ball and keeps on going.
Yeah, Terry ran a 4.55, not blazing, but better, maybe better than some people thought.
Yeah.
DeAndre Baker, a 4.52 official. His agent told me he is going to run again tomorrow. He wants to run a 4.4. He wants that first round money, Chip. And certainly Isaac Nauta with that 4.91 wasn't what he wanted at the Combine. Yeah. Riley Ridley, I believe, was a 4.58. I think he thinks he can go faster. So that'll take place tomorrow. I've had some people ask me. It will be televised, but it will be tape delayed. So we'll keep your eye on Dog Nation. Chip and I will do our best to stay on top of that, and we'll be back here again Thursday broadcasting, after practice and after Georgia goes through practice number 2 of 15. And Chip, do you have any other final words, any parting thoughts for today?
No, I just hope it feels more like spring on the next. It was a pretty cold start to spring practice after we've had some really nice weather, and it'll be a lot more interesting when they get the pads on, and we're slowly starting to figure they didn't give us a roster of the new freshmen, the 14 early enrollees, what their numbers are. So they're scrambling to get those numbers figured out. We've got about 10 of the 14 figured out, so we ought to have that all figured out by Thursday.
No doubt, and 6 number changes as well. Everybody have a great Tuesday night.